Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today to talk about planting a strong financial future. And this is a very important subject, as well as a very valuable subject for yourself as well as for your family. And again, I'd like to really say how much I'm grateful for the fact that you're willing to spend some time in order to take care of yourself. So where are we going to begin? As far as I'm concerned, defining your intentions is where you automatically have to start in order to accomplish setting some goals, creating a budget, and making some changes in your life. And what we often find for veterans is that because inside of the service, you're kind of kept in this family environment where everything is cared for. Your housing, your food, even transportation. For the most part, whatever income you have coming in, you're capable of doing whatever you choose to with it. But the reality is, you don't have any demands like making sure you're paying your light bill, making sure you have to pay your rent, and oftentimes, because it feels like you have all this extra money, you'll actually spend it on things like toys, trucks, outings, fast food, without any repercussions, quite frankly, because your basic needs are always being met. So part of this whole process is to try to get you to change your consciousness about all these things, because now you suddenly are responsible for every aspect of your life. And so this is why we're beginning here in defining your intentions, because you have to now look at your life and say, what is it that I really want? What is it that I really would like to accomplish? What do I want to have now? What do I want to have 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And my suggestion would be, in order to do that, is you have to sit down with a piece of paper and write these things down. You have to start with writing everything down. And then once you've done that, what we're going to do is set some goals. After that, I'm going to show you a way to bring order to your finances, and then how to create a goal. So, the first part, in my opinion, is the most fun, because exploring your desires allows you to identify what's important to you as a person. And potentially, you may be doing this as a married couple, or with a partner, or with other individuals, and that you're wanting to create this life for yourself. And so my intention behind it is, when you're sitting down and doing this, is for it to be fun. It absolutely is not supposed to be something that's strenuous or arduous or uncomfortable or unhappy. Just the opposite. It should be one of the happiest things you can do. There, no holds barred. Whatever it is that comes to your mind that you would like to accomplish, have, be, or do in your life, this is where you start. Because if you don't choose these things, the reality is none of them are going to happen anyway. And so also gives you an opportunity to be creative, because maybe there are some talents that you have that you would like to explore, in addition to an occupation that you might have. And these are all things that can be addressed, or hobbies that you really get a lot out of, or vacation places that you really want to go to. So it all starts by exploring all these ideas, and then you have to take them and set some priorities. You have to determine the importance of each one of these goals. And again, there's no right or wrong in this. The importance of each goal is specifically based on yourself. What's important to you? And which of those goals do you want to achieve first? Because if you have to achieve them within a certain time frame, then you now have to look at how are you going to set aside the funds necessary to achieve that goal. So that's where timetables come in. How much time do I need to accomplish owning a car because the one I just have is dying? How much time do I really have? Versus how much time do I have before the next family reunion and I want to attend it? Or how much time do I have before I want to retire? And retirement today does not mean what retirement meant in my grandfather's lifetime. Today, for most people, retirement means not working as hard or as long as they work, allowing what you've saved to subsidize your income, but you still keep working. Because I don't know too many people anymore who just quit working and do absolutely nothing at 65, because chances are they're going to live another 30 or 35 years. And that's the reality of it. And the younger generations, 20s and 30s right now, there's a good chance you're all going to live over 100. Am I willing to make long-term commitments? And this is where it really comes down to how much am I willing to put myself first? How much am I willing to live up to these goals that I have set for myself? How important is me to me? And what risks am I willing to shoulder, and what sacrifices am I willing to make in order to achieve these goals? And it doesn't always have to be a sacrifice, but as I mentioned earlier, maybe you eat out 5 days a week, and your adjustment is you only eat out twice a week, and that difference you use towards something that you want to save for a goal. Okay, so now we have these goals. We have a timetable. We know what we need 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And that's not to say you aren't going to relook at these or revisit them or adjust them, but the reality is you've got someplace to start. And so now the next thing that you have to do is you have to look at the money you make and how you're spending it. And the only way you can do that is to literally gather the information. You have to gather your income information, your asset information, and your expense information. So there is an income worksheet that will be made available to you in order for you to accomplish this. And inside of the income worksheet, we've tried to cover most of the areas that you would encounter, such as earnings from a salary, if you get a bonus or commissions, if you own property, if you get rental income, if you have business income, interest or dividends from stocks or mutual funds or bank accounts, potentially you get alimony or child support. And then, if you do earn a salary, then you look at your payroll deductions, because those are very important because they take away your discretionary income. Those are things that are absolutes. Your federal tax bracket, fortunately you don't have a state tax bracket in Texas, but you do have Social Security and Medicare, and you may be paid towards health insurance or dental or life insurance. A lot of companies offer these benefits that you can take, that you can use. And you potentially might be also contributing to a 401k plan. Or you might have some savings of your own already started, such as an IRA or a Roth IRA. All of those items have to be accounted for. And then your next step is to look at your expenses. And again, this expense worksheet, which will be available to you, is just to trigger one of the things that you are consistently paying for. And they're broken down into categories because oftentimes it's easier to think of it that way. For example, on a weekly basis, what do you pay for groceries? How much do you spend when you go to a restaurant? Do you buy lunches? Do you have to pay anything for children, like their lunches, or if you tithe to your church? And other expenses, which literally only be paid on a monthly basis, tend to be utilities, mortgages, payments like credit cards and vehicles and all the other normal things. And a lot of things that are on there that people don't budget for, like a clothing allowance, okay? Or your auto maintenance, or what's another thing? Pets, all right? Those are often items that aren't thought about, but they really need to be taken into consideration because you have to have the money for them. Some things that you might pay on a quarterly or semi-annual basis includes things like auto insurance and life insurance. Some people don't pay those monthly. There's a lot of different ways that you can make arrangements for that. And then annually, if you own a home, there's your property taxes and your property insurance, your vehicle registration, and maybe you have book subscriptions or parties. Just your own family parties or your own holiday giving. All of those things should be accounted for. Vacations. Personally, I feel that part of the budget process should include a reward system. It shouldn't include just the expenses of living. It should include the joy of living. And those are items that, again, if you include in here, you know that you're going to have the money for when the time comes. When I was much younger, banks used to allow you to have a savings account that was just for the purposes of buying gifts for Christmas. And you put money in every week, and then when Christmas time came, you had enough money because, I would say back then, a lot of people didn't use credit cards that much for things. Or they used installment payment plans instead, or they used to put things on layaway, which you don't see layaway in stores anymore, but they used to do that years ago. So these are all possibilities. And if you don't find something on this worksheet that you consistently pay for, then you have to remember to add those in. It's not a question of me thinking that you shouldn't be including them. It's just there could be so many other things, like especially for students, that might not be on this worksheet, but they pertain to you. Finally, after you've aggregated all of that information in terms of your income and your expenses, you put it on a consolidated worksheet. And that's going to now allow you to take all your income and then all your expenses. And the reason there are the calculations there is because obviously we're looking to get monthly totals. So in order to get monthly totals for a weekly item, you're going to have to multiply that number by 4. And if it's quarterly, you're going to have to divide it by 3. And if it's semi-annually, you're going to have to divide it by 6. And if it's a monthly item, if it's an annual item, you're going to divide it by 12. Because we're trying to get you to a monthly budget. So you have to realize that in having a monthly budget, it's going to look like you have extra money every month. Because you are setting aside money that you may not have to pay for it 3 months or 6 months or a year down the line. But the reality is you're going to need those funds. And oftentimes when people live from one paycheck to the other, that's where they run into the difficulty of having money for the holidays or for the maintenance on your car or something else because you never factored that in going along the way. So now you have a budget and you have some goals. So what are you going to do? The next most important thing that you can do in creating a budget is to try to live by it. Now, how do you do that? One of my suggestions is that you actually keep track of your spending for at least a month, maybe 2. And you can do that either by saving the receipts. If you use an ATM card, just look at your ATM statement. You can have an envelope system where you put so much money in each envelope, and that's what you spend, and what's left over, you now can determine how you want to reallocate those funds at the end of that time period. Whatever makes it easier for you. Again, sometimes having multiple savings accounts where these other items that really are only going to be paid once a year get pulled out and moved over into those separate accounts so that when the time comes you have access to the funds. And then you review it. As you go along, things are going to happen in your life that are probably going to change in these things that we're talking about today. And as you get a chance to look at them and review them, you can make adjustments because this is your budget. This is not anyone holding your feet to the fire. And this is no, I did it right or I did it wrong. It's life happens. And so we all have to live with what happens in life. And so this is part of the process. And learning the next step after this would be learning some basic financial principles. Because if once you start saving money, you're going to want to learn how to make that money make money for you, instead of you just making money. And that's critical in terms of getting to a point, for example, that you have enough funds to retire. So this is a very simplistic example to give you an idea of how you would go about a plan. So in this case, I'm saying that you need an emergency fund. And in my mind, every person needs to have an emergency fund, which is anywhere from 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Now, that doesn't mean extras like going out to eat. I'm talking about things that you absolutely are essential, you cannot live without, and you know you have to have that much money. So if you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So I used this formula, which was your living expenses would be $1,900 a month. 3 months worth of that is $5,700. Now, depending on your circumstances, you might say, oh my goodness, how can I possibly save that much money? So I made it a real simple long-term goal. At 10 years. So at 10 years, you would only have to say, you would have $5,700, okay? So each year, that means you would have to save $570. Each month, you would have to save $47.50. Each week, you would have to save $10.96. On a daily basis, you would only have to save $1.57 in order to reach your goal of $5,700 in 10 years. And I know that sounds like a long time, but the illustration, the point here is that anybody can save money as long as you remain consistent and true to your intention. Because $1.57, my guess is most people waste $1.57 every day. And if you started looking closely at what you spend your money on and how you spend your money, there's probably lots of areas where you can find $2, $3, $5, $10, $15, $25 sitting around that you could be putting towards the goals that you're looking to accomplish. Another thing that seems to hurt people significantly is debt. And an important thing to understand about debt is there is a way to pay off debt so that you minimize what it's costing you, because the whole reason why you are suffering when it comes to debt is because you are eroding the value of your dollar because of the interest rate that you're being charged. So in this very simple example, we took 5 different credit cards, and they all have different dollar amounts, and they all have different interest rates, and they all have different monthly minimum payments. So the idea here is, in this example, if you just were to continue on this schedule without making any changes, it would take you 11 years and 8 months to pay down this debt. So now, our suggestion is, all you're going to do is pay an extra $25 a month. That's it. And what you're going to do is you're going to pay down the debt in order of the most expensive debt. So, if we look at this example, the most expensive debt is the first one. It's at 18.9%. So instead of paying $120, I'm now going to pay $145. And I'm going to continue to do that until that $3,000 is paid off. Now when that $3,000 is paid off, I now have an extra $145. But you're not going to. Instead, you're going to now take that whole $145 and add it to the $160 that you were paying on the next item, because that is the next most expensive debt. So now you're up to paying $205 every month. Now, when that debt is paid off, you're now going to add that $205 to the $350, because again, that's the next most expensive debt. If you consistently follow that, where you keep rolling over the payments into the debt that you have, as opposed to saying, oh wow, I now got free money, I don't have to pay that debt anymore, so I can just do whatever I want with it. The reality is, if you follow that program, you would have this entire credit card paid off in 2 years and 5 months. That's huge. 11 years and 8 months to 2 years and 5 months. It's just a simple matter of understanding how this principle works. So, what ends up happening after you do all these things? You get to reap the rewards. I think probably one of the greatest things that you can feel once you have created a budget and you've learned how to live with it and you've learned how to take care of yourself and feel really good about yourself for doing it, you become empowered when you make financial decisions, because you have control over your money, and you then also have control over your life. You're also at peace with your finances. Oftentimes, a lot of reasons why none of these things happen is because you just worry about things. You don't really know how much they cost. You don't really know what you're spending. You don't really know what's happening. This takes all those things away. It's an absolute. You know what things cost. You know what you have. Now you got to decide what you're going to do. And finally, you can take pride as you reach each goal, because it's you and only you has created this benefit in your life. So, if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact the staff here. They can contact me, or you can contact me directly. This is my phone number. This is my email address. I am a financial advisor in the area who has been doing this for over 15 years, and I'm more than happy to help anyone who would like my assistance. And again, I thank you.